I video everything I do because people have a tendency to start thinking that I said things I didn't say. Or, can you believe he said that? Or maybe because there's only 12 or 15 people here, and if I go somewhere else and speak, if I put it up on YouTube, everybody can see it. Government is supposed to be held out in the open. We have things called the sunshine laws.
Just a second.
Sure.
Appreciate you stopping by and something or whatever. But I mean, I understand you're also busy, so if you do have to run off, that's fine. If you want to hang, you're more than welcome. Whatever you've got to do. But I know you've got class.
She's heard enough of me in the past, but who knows?
Exactly.
I think I can stay for another 20 minutes or so. So yeah,
All
thank
right,
you
whatever.
thank you.
So we have laws called the sunshine laws that supposedly promise us that our government is open, transparent, and accessible to us. And they get broken constantly in this community, and the party is a big part of that. Now, what do you want to hear about first? Do you want to hear about my ideas for the party, or do you want to hear about my ideas for Congress? Because I can talk about either one.
Okay, I do want to touch on the ideas for Congress first, but I think these fill in the newspaper, you made some points about how you would like to change the voter registration.
No. I said we are watching Republicans make it very hard to get registered to vote. They're putting all this emphasis on voter registration. What we really should be worrying about is donor registration. We should make it so you have to register to donate, and donate through a verified portal. And in real time, every donation is shown exactly who it's from, who they are, and any connections they have, because they have to make certain disclosures, like who they work for and what stocks they own, et cetera, Anyways, and then it shows up. Because right now the system we have with the FEC, which is so bad at reporting things, because they're self-reported by the candidates. So there's a guy, okay, his name's Stephen A. Cohen. Now, anybody know Stephen A. Cohen? Ever heard of SAC Capital? Ever heard of the New York Mets? Because he owns them now. Same guy. He actually got thrown off of Wall Street for him. He's not allowed to invest other people's money anymore because of all his insider deals. But I went to look him up during the scandal and see which congressman he bought. And it was pretty surprising to me because guess what? Stephen A. Cohen doesn't give that much money to politicians. But what I did find in the FEC database is Stephen A. Cohen shows up as Stephen, S-T-E-V-E-N. He shows up as Stephen, S-T-E-P-H-E-N. He shows up as Steve. Sometimes he's at his home in Connecticut. Sometimes he's at his office address in New York. So there's all these different Stephen A. Cohens, and it's the same guy. Sometimes he's Stephen, sometimes it's Stephen A., sometimes. That is not a system. Just flat out, it doesn't work. It's not correct. So we have a thing called opensecrets.org. How many of you have been to opensecrets.org? Fascinating website. Breaks down basically who owns your congressman. It should be, these guys should have to show up in jumpsuits, just like NASCAR drivers with logos on them for who's bought them and how much it costs. It'd be a lot more entertaining, and it'll be a lot easier to tell who owns your congressman, okay? So, the first step is to build a system of donor registration so we can get this horse shit stopped and stop people from having their Shih Tzu donate, as well as their 2-year-old child, as well as their housekeeper. And when I caught a local company here, anybody ever hear of a company called Cubase? Cubase was the darling of the Dayton Development Coalition, which is a lobbying organization paid for by tax dollars, doing absolutely nothing, but keeps telling us this myth that they have some sort of magical control over investment in the base, and they're all about the base, which is what Mike Turner's about, the base. Mike Turner goes on and says, I'm basically, I'm pro-base. And he has the gall to show pictures of himself, U.S. Air Force. He never served a day in his life. I'm an actual veteran, okay? I raised my hand, and I said willing to trade my life to protect the Constitution. Michael R. Turner, no such thing. Even though he swore an oath to become a congressman, he's done something else. So
Our slogan here is that Mike Turner does support the military, just not ours.
there you go.
Whoever wins the primary, that's what you have to go with on the sound bites.
Well, trust me, I know what I need to do, but we'll get to that in a minute. But this whole principle of buying political power has got to stop. Okay, the minimum donation you can make to Mike Turner is $500 on this website. I'm not even sure he's aware of that. But that should tell you something right there. So I have a whole, over the last 25 years of fighting the Democratic Party locally and running for Congress and never being once contacted by the state party or the local party anytime I've run to ask me, what do we need to help you win? I've never been talked to by the DNC or any of these people. And then I see basically the people that the party has supported and who have all lost by at least, the best showing has been 12 points. I mean, come on now. You can blame gerrymandering all you want, but 12 points is embarrassing, especially when you spend $2 million and only get within 14 points the last time out, where they allowed a carpetbagger from DC to come in here and say, oh, I'm the candidate. It's gotten to the point, it's sheer ridiculousness. Now, let's go focus back to, well, I started writing a book, and then my father got sick, my mother had dementia, and the book got put on hold. It's 25,000 words into it. But what I also set up were two nonprofits. One is a 501c3, which is a nonprofit tax deductible, and that one is called the Modern Policy Institute. And that one is to create an entire set of open source tools and systems to be able to run government properly and hold elections properly. It includes voter information tools because we have very uninformed voters. So how many of you have ever been to the site I Stand With? Anybody? No? How many of you have been on a dating site called OkCupid? Don't raise your hands. So OkCupid was actually started by a couple Harvard kids, and their dating algorithm was really interesting. They ask you questions, and they say, here's the question, and here's my answer. They want your prospective partner to say, this is my answer. And they want to say how important this is to you. Is it really absolute? Is it pretty important, not important, or I don't care what they say, okay? So, question, could be anything. And a lot early on, these were user-generated questions, so they were very up-to-date and very interesting. But they'd say things like, the Earth is bigger than the sun. Now, me personally, I know the answer to that. Obviously, the sun is bigger. And I would hope that my prospective life partner would know that too, because otherwise we're still talking flat earther and believing in QAnon and Pizzagate. So I would say that's very important. So that same algorithm is used with I Stand With for presidential candidates, and they ask you a series of questions, and they've figured out what the candidate's positions, and it gives you a match percentage. And this is a very important tool if we want to adapt or adopt ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting to me solves a lot of the problems that we're seeing with where we have three great candidates, because I could say my first choice is Jacquelyn. My second choice is Angie. My third choice is Tony, okay? And I can do that really easily, and then if my first choice vote doesn't win, we go to my second choice. My vote rolls down to second choice until somebody gets enough votes to win. They don't become the candidate, the winner. And that helps people run who may not fit in the mainstream, who are moderates, instead of having primaries where we have the extremists picking extreme candidates. So ranked choice voting is important, but only if you have the information. So what do you need to understand a candidate? Well, one, I believe we should have a test for candidates, because some of these people, Lauren Corbett, Coughlin, we've got some Marjorie Taylor Greene. We have some people who don't even know what they're supposed to do or how it's done. So we have a test for candidates, and then we have a series of questions, and they answer as many or as few as they want. And you can set a thing and say this is the number of questions they have to answer, even to be considered a match. Are they serious about this matchmaking process, me with the voters? So that the candidate would answer the questions, then the voter can answer the questions. They say, what's most important? And we get way past those hot button issues of guns, abortion, the wall. You know, we start talking about other issues. And you can see that if you only have 3 questions on those and you got 10 questions on other stuff, all of a sudden the weighting might change. Now there's still going to be single, issue candidates and single issue voters, but those can start to be flattened out by having a true voter information system. But then, once they get in office and votes are recorded, we know what the vote is on. We can categorize it to each of those questions and start seeing how much they align with what they said and what they did, and give a percentage of accuracy. And you can see how your candidate fits with what you've done. Now it's easier. They do stuff like this for congressional, but we can do it on the local level too. It's ungodly how much money we spend on setting up websites for all these little banana republics in Montgomery County. Every city has a website. Every city has this. And they all are paying for some sort of thing to handle their agendas, except for the Board of Elections, which doesn't believe in agendas, but I'm fighting that lawsuit on my own. Nobody cares. That's another thing. But an agenda should have all the issues and the information that the person voting is given to make their decision. We should be able to examine all that. That's what open, honest government is. So they're paying for things like board docs. What's the problem with board docs? Well, once the government starts paying for it, it all goes away. It's owned by private companies. Is that the way we really want to do this? So we want to create an open source system for managing agendas, managing votes, recording the votes, recording who voted, and all in real time, so we know who we elected, what they're doing, and why. And the whole system, it is a complicated thing, but open source, we're spending billions now on building stupid websites for candidates and everything else. Most candidates don't know how to build a website. They don't know how to set up, you have to set up an EIN, you have to do all this stuff. Why? You register as a candidate, you take the test, you pass the test, you get on the ballot with your signatures, you instantly start answering the questions. It builds a website for you. You can write a statement and put it into place. It's got all this information, and you're up and running. It will even give you access to voter information that's up to date, and the ability to read. People can subscribe to whatever you put as updates, and they can see get registered to your votes and everything else, and it's all one system.
Honestly, I think this is an excellent idea.
This
is this stuff, the ranked choice voting.
Alex is going to talk more about that, but that's my premise.
Great. Because we are time limited
Right.
here. Why don't we pivot to the local party issues that you have on that as far as the Constitution for?
Okay.
Some of us are talking about
Can I ask one thing?
Sure.
One last thing before we leave. If you or anyone you know, relative, whatever, friends, would like to help us Tuesday at the polls, that would be greatly appreciated. Please contact us, okay?
All right. And just before you guys, I have these that I made. If you got guts to put it on your car and proclaim, but this is the reality of America. I usually ask for a donation, but I've got some. You can make hand a couple, whatever you want to Alex, and he'll be happy to take the money. But it is the truth, unfortunately. So the local party. First off, this idea of an executive committee and a central committee and meeting twice and basically going over the same agenda is the biggest bunch of hooey I've ever seen in my life. It needs to stop.
For anybody that doesn't know, this coming primary, there's also a vote in the Democratic Party on the Constitution because we found out that the Constitution we had, the way we've done things was illegal, and so there's going to be a vote on doing a new Constitution. Part of this is one of David's biggest complaints is that everything's done in the back room, and they put out these the party supports those candidates with, we don't know why, other than, like we were just saying here, they support somebody and it's back room, we should all just go along with it. Part of this Constitution is looking to change how that goes. But the people that are going to vote on the Constitution, is the relational analysis together.
So,
why
let-
don't you
real
explain
quick,
that to me?
real quick, okay? The way it's been working, the party has been picking whoever they want to fill empty precinct chairs, even captain seats, even if they don't live in the precinct, one. And two, there's the second issue is that they're often appointing people who work in elected officials' offices. So you got to vote for the boss, which is why they love having everybody do a show of hands, which is basically, hey, we can see what you did. You want to lose your job? Get in line, okay? We need a new voting system, and there's lots of digital options. It doesn't matter which one. Your vote is recorded, okay? But the results, they don't see the names until the vote is taken, okay? There's none of this, oh, I got to vote this way because I see everybody else's hands going up, okay? So it requires actually being connected and knowing what's going on. So we have right now the central committee, which is all made up of all the precinct captains. The used to be 360, now it's 382. At one point it was 560 or 540, but we've shrunk and whatever and redistricted. But the precincts, they moved my precinct because they lost the last two and they wanted to run Heath, who's their boy, and make sure he wins because he ran against me last time he lost. Joel Proust ran against me, he lost. I mean, they moved me, so that's fine. I'm going knocking on doors, that's the piece I'm handing out. And I'm talking to people. And I'm probably the only candidate who goes knocks on doors and people say, I read your stuff. I'm a total supporter. I believe in what you've been doing since 2005. I mean, that blog has been going that long. But here we go. So we have the central committee, then we have the executive committee. And the executive is ward chairman. So every 6 precincts is a ward, or 7 precincts, and then they have a vote. And usually because they control the majority of the seats through the appointed people who are in patronage jobs or allegiant to them, they get all the executive committee. I made the executive committee one time because Joe Lacey was mad at the party and voted for me, and A.J. Wagner was the other one, and he was mad at the party and voted for me. And poor Marty Garris was like in tears, and Russ Joseph, they were the other two, because I said, I get to vote for myself, I'll win! So they had to fix that too. But anyways, so they have the executive committee, which there's no need. And then they have the screening committee, which I've never voted once to who gets to be on the screening committee or not on the screening committee. Now a screening committee, that might be okay to say if we have crackpots or people who just really don't know what they're doing and say, hey look, maybe you're not ready to run before you throw your name in. Here are the things you need to do or learn or understand and see that they're prepared to run a campaign, but we don't do that. To see if the party's willing to put resources behind your campaign. It would be a screening committee thing.
So the opposite side here.
The first question they ask you is, if we don't endorse you, will you drop out? That's been the standards forever.
So here's the flip side of it. They look at the screening committee as theoretically, you take the 3 candidates and you look at their experience, their money that they have gained, and all the different stuff that goes into it, and they want to push the candidate that has the best chance of winning. And they'll say that if there is a primary and these people are all fighting it out in the primary, they're going to spend all the money that they have that they could be using for the regular election. So rather than have our own people fighting it out in these primaries, we just want to select one, put the party behind it, and do this.
But here's the problem. Then nobody wants to go vote. There's no reason to vote. There's no choice. There's no, and they don't get a chance to hear the names on the ballot. There's no forums. There's no discussion. But it doesn't matter anymore because nobody votes in primaries first. And number 2, even if they do go to vote, they don't have any choices. Or if they do have choices, they don't know anything. The paper didn't even cover the congressional candidates for the Democratic side until a week before the primary when early voting had been going on for 3 weeks. And what they did, he called me up and he's like asking me some questions. I said, like, where's your picture that we should use? And they used the wrong one, but he says, we're just going to go off the questionnaires. I said, really? That'd be too bad because your questions are stupid. and as somebody who grew up the son of a journalist, you're not doing your job. Ask some real questions. And he didn't know how to do that. I said, have you found Kirk Benjamin yet? No. I said, nobody seems to have. I said, I was going to go knock on his door. Did you ever consider doing that? And somehow he finally got a hold of Kirk, but so did we. But we gave him an hour forum with Alex interviewing him and posted it
God bless you for that.
to Reconstructing Dayton. And we're going to do that. We did that with Baxter Stapleton yesterday. We can't find Hardenbrook's phone number, and he didn't respond to any inquiries on his website. And we'll do one of me here later today, and it'll be live and then go up. But Reconstructing Dayton believes in informing voters, even so that you know what's going on. I mean, seriously, Alex thinks the best candidate out there is Rennis Bowers because he's got the best mustache. I mean, when it comes to Republicans, if you're going to have to pick a guy for one reason or another, the best mustache that may work. But the sad thing is, we've had some really bad people run for Montgomery County Commissioner, and they've come this close over and over and over because the party doesn't have any way of building candidates. We don't have a way of grouping things. So let's get to what a party meeting is supposed to be. A party meeting isn't supposed to be all the precinct captains. It's not supposed to be all the elected officials or the elected officials' employees. It's supposed to engage run-of-the-mill Democrats and teach them and educate them and inform them and get them involved in the process so that when we need to actually go out and change things and make things happen, we have people that know why, who, where, what to do. So as a candidate, when I go to Greene County and talk to their party, I ask, do you have places I can put my signs? Oh yes, here's a list. Go do it. They'll say, yes, these are on main streets. Boom, it's done. Has that ever happened in Montgomery County? No. Have they ever helped anybody but themselves? No, it's the Friends and Family Plan. And it's been the Friends and Family Plan for a long time. So, we have meetings. It's not about party business. It's about big issues. We should be talking about what we can do to eliminate problems with climate change. We should be talking about things like legislation that involve privacy, social media. This should be a meeting where you go and you learn something and you get more and more convinced that this is something we have to take back our country and do things with. That's not on the agenda of Mohammed El-Hamdani. That's not on the agenda of Jocelyn Reiner. I would have a wall with every office in Montgomery County, who's in it, when the seat comes up, how much it pays, what the requirements are to get elected, what the responsibilities are, and who's run for it, and so that we start having a game plan, a war room, and we're looking at it. Now that wall will be that entire side wall because we have way too many offices in Montgomery County. We need Unigo. We need to stop having banana republics with school districts of 464 students and a superintendent and a treasurer and calling that a school district. That's an elementary school, folks. Okay? The entire district of Jefferson Township, that's one high school. You don't need 400 students. My high school was only 3 grades, 10, 11, and 12. It had about 2,500 students or 2,800 students. That's the entire school district in Oakwood. And they've got a treasurer and a superintendent and all these other things. That needs to stop. It's not just about school districts, it's about cities and bureaucracies. How many police chiefs? How many fire chiefs? We are spending ungodly amounts of money on overhead in this county that we don't need to. And so they had one date and then, this vision, but they tried to sell it wrong. You don't sell it by telling them, oh, this is a better system. You say, the system we have isn't working. Join with us to come up with something better. And we know this works because we've seen it work in Indianapolis, we've seen it work in Columbus, we've seen it work in Louisville, and it makes sense. And besides, all those politicians you see on the wall, none of them are very smart or very good at it. They just get to be it for life because our election system is broken. So, Reconstructing Dayton is the 501c4, and that's the goal there, and that's what we're trying to work on. So the party meetings, people come who aren't precinct captains. They're not there. That meeting's like the executive meeting. And then the general meeting is a big party where we sit there and we have people come in, national level politicians, activists, speakers, people so that you want to come to a meeting and learn and be
For
engaged.
people that haven't been, you go to the meeting downtown, it's exactly like this. They have the executive meeting meets, now they moved it to the corner, so that nobody else can even see what they're talking about.
It used to be
Then
upstairs.
Then they have the main meeting, and they go around, they read the treasury reports, this and that, but there is no
subject matter.
there is no conversation about what's going on. I mean, when I went like the first 3 or 4 meetings, I was like angry. I wanted to talk. I wanted to find what's going on. I sat there by myself.
That's my job.
And I was like, yeah. Other than this one crazy guy yelling at him, there's like nobody approached me. Nobody did anything. So I kind of almost went
No engagement.
So
Yes.
And so one of the reasons I started this was because I wanted to talk to people, about what was going on, and that was kind of the impetus behind this. So I do get what you're saying. I mean, it's a great. I think more people would come if there was conversation, if they were learning something.
The Democratic Party isn't the elected people. The Democratic Party is everybody who votes Democrat, and that number has been dropping in Montgomery County. We need to give them like a mission, like move to Unigov, move to things that make sense, cut out all these websites, cut out all this confusion. Do you know how hard it is to do a background check in this county? How many courts do you have to go and look up? How many courts have their records online in a format that you can read? Lawyers have a really hard time. Stuff is buried. When I'm doing investigations into a lawyer that should be disbarred, I have to ask them to send me things, and everything they send me is docket 1, docket 1A, docket 1B. It doesn't have any of the names. Same thing when you download documents from the Montgomery County Clerk of Courts, which is a home-built system, which is actually halfway decent. You have access, but it's not searchable, it's not modern UI, and they're not interested in making it more accessible or easier. We should have a statewide clerk of courts where every court has everything in one place, in one format, and it's all ADA compliant. That's not happening.
The system, it gives an advantage to the other side.
It gives an advantage to lawyers.
Well, but it also gives an advantage to people that aren't interested in investigating.
Right.
They want to be told who to vote for. They don't want to investigate, and that is definitely the system to keep people from finding out the truth.
Correct. So we could have one clerk of court system for the whole county like that, and we could have one set of courts. But no, it's fiefdoms. So I am working to get people to come to the meetings to understand this big picture and the problem and how do we solve it and how do we save a boatload of money so we're not taxed out of existence. The reason big companies started leaving here, our tax burden was ridiculous for what they were getting. It's not the problem with the community, it's just when you gotta wonder, why are we at 2.75% income tax now in the city of Dayton? 2.5%? Okay, same as Oakwood. We don't get the same services. 2.5%. Where are those tax dollars going? What are they funding? Well, they told us they were going to put streetlights. They didn't do that. They said they were going to pave roads. They're doing that, but they were supposed to do that anyways. That was their job originally. And then they say, oh, we're doing the preschool promise. What's that turned out to be? That's giving money to private operators and private companies to take care of your children. Instead of funneling that money into Dayton Public Schools, which had a great preschool program that went 4 days a week, and it could have been 5 days, but they didn't have the funding. And our school district sucks. You can thank Jocelyn Reiner for that.
Here's the thing. Montgomery County Party, this Thursday night, we're going to have the debate on the preschool program, because we've heard both sides of that.
It's a fraud.
So,
Absolute
again,
fraud.
But this is the thing, and even to me, even if you have opposing
Randy.
sides within the same party, it's good to hear. People will come to hear it.
How many of you know what the Montgomery County Educational Service Center is? Okay, what is it?
It's a place where you can go and, for me, I went to Yale stuff and went to communication there and I could borrow things for my classroom there.
No, it is a group for retired superintendents to double dip and make huge money administering the resale of highly trained professionals to come in to do things like ESL, interpreting, child psychology, and things like that. They contract with school districts. The oversight of this organization is by a 3-person board where the only people who can run are in this tiny unincorporated spot, and the same people have been on it forever. Even though the city of Dayton schools spend over $1 million a year with these people, we have no oversight. The Educational Service Centers started out as the county school board. That was what it was originally, because we didn't need 30 school boards in Montgomery County or whatever number, I can't even keep track of this. We need 1. And this has to stop. The rehire programs where we have people like Libby Lawley, who is obviously incompetent because nothing has gone well since she goes there. Jocelyn keeps giving her a raise and extending her contract. Another reason Jocelyn should not be running anything other than out on the street every morning when she likes to brag about it on her social media posts. Nothing substantive. Yeah, I went for a great run this morning. Okay, and your hair looks nice. Great, Jocelyn. Let's talk about substance. And she just walked by here. I just would love for her to come here because I really don't think very much of her as a politician or as a leader. I mean, we have the worst schools in the state with a superintendent that's got like 30% turnover in her with HR, with spending money on programs where nothing gets done and they back out of them. We bought people out. We've done everything wrong. And she thinks she can run the party? Or Muhammad, who was there while we had literally a foreign agent on the school board who didn't live in the district. And when I told them, Dr. Adil Bagirov was elected unopposed to the school board. He went to school at Moscow State University. His father, I can't even, you're gonna have to watch the video. International man of mystery, but he moved out of the district 2 years in. The man got involved in 3 contracts where he had personal interest. One was school buses. He talked us into buying a whole fleet, 120 buses all at once, instead of you usually buying 20 every year so that they die off and they're refurbished. He bought a 10-year warranty on a bus that has a 7-year warranty. All this is good and fine. He pushed this thing through, but guess what he forgot to mention? Oh yeah, he runs a trucking company and he buys his trucks from the same people he's buying the buses from. But he did it, not purchasing, he did it. Same thing on the Chromebooks. The most interesting one was his dirty deals done dirt cheap, which I talked about, where they sold off the old downtown, why can't I remember the name of the school, right across from the Memorial Hall, Patterson Cooperative site, which was a true grain field for $1 million to CareSource. Now, there was an empty parking lot behind Mask. It went for $2 million, and it is not a grain field. But so Adil did this deal and said it was a great deal for Dayton Public Schools, except for one thing. He also has a home health company, and one of his biggest contracts, most of his money is coming through Medicare and Medicaid, and it's coming through CareSource. Again, he did this deal on his own. But when I found out he didn't live in the district, nobody would do anything. Finally, on the election day, when he changed his voter registration because he wanted to run against Steve Henney, I said, okay, now we have proof. And if he doesn't resign or you force him out, by noon tomorrow, I'm filing a lawsuit. So he resigned 6 weeks before his term was over. But none of the other school board members did anything. The Board of Elections didn't do anything. The Secretary of State didn't do anything. The Attorney General didn't do anything. The County Prosecutor didn't do anything. Nobody did anything. Now, I'm going to tell you something else. In further digging, we found out, besides the fact that in his ethics statement he didn't disclose all the corporations he was involved in, which we found every one of them, he missed out a slight thing where he got $250,000 from what's called the Azerbaijani laundromat a couple days after he got elected. The Azerbaijani laundromat was a plan by Azerbaijan to try to change their perception in the world by investing in change agents around the world, and it was dirty money. Adil Bagirov was a criminal, and he had that school board and Mohammed Al-Hamdani wrapped around his little finger. Now, Mohammed came in after, and the very first thing he did was try to have an illegal meeting to just close the school and sell off buildings. And I said, you can't go and take a bus tour and go into the buildings and not make it open. And he went ahead and did it, filmed the whole thing. Judge Richard Skelton never vote for Judge Richard Skelton again, but basically helped them break the law. They had a moving meeting in school buses. I have it all on video. I had the proof. They wouldn't let me enter it into evidence. We need an ethics officer that is openly elected in every county in Ohio to represent the citizens in court cases against their own officials so that they don't have to do it alone. Because guess what? I can't get paid as a non-lawyer for my time. But if I pay a lawyer, I'm supposed to get reimbursed. Except when I go to Judge Gerald Parker's case and win, he said the $5,000 my lawyer charged me, oh, no, I'm not going to award that. It's optional. Judge Gerald Parker, do not vote for him again. And I'm on the record. I'll say it right to Judge Gerald Parker's face. You screwed up. You screwed a citizen who went and did the right thing. Because what the library was doing with holding those tapes was wrong, and they never turned them over the way they were supposed to. And I have proof of that too. And they said, well, you filed one thing one day late, so screw you. Then I go in a federal case to get the Whaley tapes, Nan Whaley's tapes that were made by Joey Williams, the confidential informant, who had been found caught in taking criminal bribes by the FBI while he was in office. They didn't prosecute him immediately. They didn't make it public. They hid it. It's called misprision of a felony. Let him run for office again with a deal saying, oh, if you do win, you'll have to step down, which he did. It cost us a special election, and that's where they ran Darrell Ward against Darrell Fairchild, and Fairchild eked out past him. And then they finally indicted him with Roshan Winburn, Clayton Lucky, and a private businessman named Brian Higgins in what they called the culture of corruption. I'm standing there, I'm saying, excuse me. First question, after they got done making an announcement, I'm saying, you're saying there's this huge culture of corruption. You got about $250,000 in that you're talking about in total deals and everything. And you're telling me only black men were involved in this community? Because I can't really figure that out. And by the way, out of Wright State, the $130 million went missing, and you didn't indict a single person. They paid $1 million fine, but nobody was guilty of anything wrong. These people, I sat through the entire Higgins trial. Williams, Winburn, as they were saying, they didn't go to trial. I sat through the whole entire Higgins trial, and the jury never heard the whole story. So, I've got a FOIA. I know that the grand jury heard tapes of Nan Whaley doing dirty things. And they've been delaying and delaying and delaying.
Let me ask you this.
But she's running as a confidential informant. So,
What do you say to people that, look, you are disruptive in the party? I mean, we are trying to get,
sure.
Nan Whaley like the governor right now.
No, you better not be.
See, and
She's not going to.
You got to understand how some people that are like supporting the party right now, they're I would agree, pretty much anybody to beat the Republicans because of what they're doing on there.
Vote for John Cranley. Thank God we have a choice. But let me tell you something. When the FBI is running people who they know committed a crime with the agreement that they will step down, that's called interfering with elections. That's what they're accusing the Russians of doing. And they did it right here in Dayton, Ohio with Joey Williams. I have his first confession published, where his first interview with FBI, where he is a CI, and he runs for office. And they said, well, we don't have any control in their findings. They said, we don't have any control over who runs for office. I'm like, really? Because you should have had him in handcuffs and in the hoosegow long before that. This system is broken. Nan is a criminal. Where else do you have people donating?
To get back to the Constitution for
Right.
Montgomery County, what we don't really know because they were going to have this meeting and they were going to get together. They haven't even done the meeting on the Constitution yet, and then everybody has to vote. I mean,
Nobody's qualified to vote on this because we haven't seen it. We haven't got a website that even tells us who the people are that are on the Central Committee, number one. Two, Mike Bach is creating some insane thing because Mike Bach is not in touch with reality and is overly verbose and everything else. It's pretty simple. The role of the party is to get Democrats elected. The way we do that and the way we operate is pretty standard organizational whatever, and you have committees and you present things, it's not that complicated. What we have to have is clear way of voting, and we should use ranked choice as a demonstration. We need to have people actually have access to voter data and candidates and the people in the precincts so that they can work to get people communicate to. We need to use the systems so that we amplify the voices of the party and get the message out. We should have an email list that's going out to 100,000 people. And what we have instead is 3,000.
So the problem is, I mean, many of the things you stated are really interesting. But now try to figure out how you ever get, you're talking about 20, 30, 40 people who are not doing the right thing. So now you have to have a plan of attack. And so you're doing a good thing, but it doesn't, you have to spend your money or somebody's money, and it doesn't generate revenue. But the people who are doing the bad things, they generate revenue.
Well, they generate revenue because they get kickbacks on the payrolls to all these people
Exactly.
in the patronage jobs.
So let's say that's all true.
So-
but you have to have, so you're fighting somebody who has lots of resources, and your opposition is good, does not have a lot of resources.
Kurt,
So somehow
Kurt,
has
this
to
is
generate
really simple. Number one, okay? Political parties can generate lots of money and generate lots of resources if they're doing the right thing, okay? There is money out there from national groups, from local donors, because I know for a fact the average donation to pass issue 9, which got us the preschool promise, the average donation was $1,875 from 150 donors. Now the reality is all those donors were contractors with the city because we run a pay-to-play thing under Nan Whaley. Okay, but there is money. You take the money and you do things with it that actually make things happen. So the first thing is the patronage people and the people in patronage shops can't serve as a voting member on their to confirm their bosses and keep the thing going. It just can't happen. We need grassroots people running the party. End of story.
So Dave, do you believe in Medicare for all?
I don't believe in Medicare for all. I believe in universal health care. I don't believe in Medicare the way we do it. I believe in health
Whatever
care.
you want to call it.
You can call it Medicare for all. I have the best health care out there. I have the VA. And the VA beats anything you can get other than a congressman's health care.
Yeah.
And I believe in universal health care. I don't believe in health insurance ever.
Okay.
There's no reason to have that middleman. But that's one of those issues that I can't fight. I can fight for common sense things like eliminating the cost of doing payroll to collect taxes. It shouldn't be that hard. The government should be able to build a simple portal. You put in, here's Joe, he makes $22 an hour. Here's Frank, he makes $27 an hour. Put in the hours, and it calculates it out, and everything's done. I shouldn't have to pay ADP or Intuit or anybody else to do this. I mean, if the government wants their money, give us the tools to give them their money and do it in real time and make it honest. And it also cuts down on employee fraud and everything else.
That's true.
How hard is that to do? And why would we only file taxes on April 15th? Wouldn't it make more sense to break it out month by month, A through F, et cetera? Because the crush we do of having everybody come on April 15th to do their taxes, it makes no sense, and the IRS is overwhelmed and they can't do their job. So why isn't Congress talking about these things and helping small business? Because big business can afford the legions of accountants and tax attorneys and everything to do this stuff because the systems are broken. This-
Okay, you have a lot of great ideas here. There's no
Yeah, that's because I have a thinking brain. I am not some of these automatrons
How are you
going
gonna
up.
beat Mike Turner?
How am I going to meet Mike Turner? Have you ever seen an interaction with me and Mike Turner? It usually involves his
I've never
veins.
seen anybody have an interaction with Mike Turner.
Well, see, I've been arrested. I've been arrested by Mike Turner. That's the difference. And he lost.
Why-
It took 2.5 years.
Why did he arrest you?
Because I went to a city commission meeting with a giant sign, which was like a giant time card, and I explained how the trash collectors were making like 56 hours a week and working 30. And it was graphic, and you couldn't, and then so they cut me off. I said, it's fine, I'll be back next week. So they're like shitting their pants because this has been a secret in the city for a long time. And Tom Ritchie, was the de facto bag man for the party for a long time, was the head of the trash collectors. he's like, you got to shut him up. We like our get off by noon and go play basketball that we have, and don't do a very good job picking up the trash. So they had a meeting on a Monday. Now the city commission meets on Wednesdays. How'd they have a meeting on a Monday? Well, I didn't even know about these Monday meetings, and I went to all the commission meetings. Every Friday, they would send out a notice saying to the press, we're having an emergency meeting. It's called a work session. We're doing it Monday at noon. Nobody knew about these, unreported. So the reporter sends me a fax of the 29 ways they thought of shutting the cameras off or eliminating me from speaking and stopping all this. And she said, what do you think of this? I said, it's obvious. They don't want to see the face of the people they represent. So I called the chief of police. I said, I'm going to be at the meeting. It shows up in the paper on Tuesday. They don't want to see the faces. Wednesday, I tell the police chief the night before Wednesday, this is right before 9/11, I said, I'm going to show up, sit in my normal seat, and I'm going to put a black balaclava over my face, head, and cover my face. I was wearing a mask. Oh my God. So I put the mask on. After we do the pledge and, you know, the invocation, all that BS, I sit down, and Turner starts having a cow. There's somebody at the podium, and you can see the camera because I sat in line with the camera. Nobody wanted to sit there because they didn't want to get caught falling asleep at the meeting. You know, all the city staff that they forced. So they want to shut these cameras off. So he starts having first he's laughing, then he's having a fit. He's calling Maureen Perro over. She goes to the back. The police major comes up and says, David, can you step outside and talk to me about this? I said, sure. So we go out. I said, Major Stussy, he said, can you take the mask off? I said, sure. Why are you wearing a mask? He said, because they're having illegal secret meetings. They don't want to see the face of the people they represent. And I'm making a protest. It's symbolic speech. It's protected by the First Amendment. And I'm going to sit there and protest. He said, you can't do that. I said, what's the rule you're going to say? He said, I don't know. I said, so you're telling me you're going to arrest me and you don't know why? And he's like, basically. So I said, well, I'm going to go back and sit down and I'm going to do it again. So I go to, this time, the chief comes, the major comes, 2 armed officers come. We go out there and the chief says, take the mask. I said, no. I said, look, there is no law about the headgear you wear at a commission meeting. There's no law about what, because otherwise you have to arrest Bootsy Neal for her Chiquita banana hats. I mean, come on. And I said, and if I was a black woman, Muslim woman wearing a hijab, you wouldn't say a damn thing. So I am sitting there making a protest. Why aren't you arresting them for having an illegal secret meeting on Monday? He says, that's not the issue. He says, you can't go in there. I said, what, you mean if I go in that room, you're going to arrest me? He says, yep. I said, on what charges? Oh, well. I take one step backward. I said, I'm in the room. Turn around, put your hands behind your back, off to jail. So they charged me with 4 fourth-degree misdemeanors. The lowest charge is disrupting a lawful meeting, which I didn't do. Conduct of persons at a commission meeting, which means nothing. And 2 counts of criminal trespass because I went into the room to do something I wasn't supposed to do, a public meeting in a public space, making a symbolic protest. Dan Garris, little Putz boy's father, decides to drag his decision out for 9.5 months after we finally get through the depositions and things. And it puts him in a really strange position, so he issues in favor of me, but it's 2 weeks till when I have to file in federal court. So I file in federal court. They immediately appeal, saying, well, we had to because he sued us in federal court. And it sets the whole thing going. And he didn't even write a word. He took the entire brief that my lawyers filed and added 2 paragraphs, short paragraphs at the end. That's fat Dan Garris's great legal contribution. It took him 9 months to do that. He released the thing on February 14th, and February 28th was the day that I had for a deadline to file. Dan Garris is a putz. He's named an FBI thing, by the way.
Most of us wouldn't, just don't know who he is.
Anyways, he's a municipal court judge that never should be. And Martin Garris is his son and is now the clerk of courts, ran unopposed because Daddy, we take care of it. It's the same way Dan Foley got, his father was a judge and Dan Foley had a lifetime of public service but didn't know his head from his ass.
So could you sue for any kinds of damage?
I sued, and we ended up settling for $100,000, and most of it went to the lawyers. I had 4 lawyers working on this thing for 2.5 years, but I learned a lot, and I've gone to court again, so when the library didn't come, I filed on my own in federal court, and I settled for $40,000, and that's what funded Reconstructing Dayton. Okay? But if I had the tapes that I was supposed to have, I would have sued for a lot more.
It sounds like you could just be a professional suer, which I
No,
thought.
no, Kurt, let's be clear on one thing. I don't want to be a lawyer because lawyers are the only profession where you get extra credit for plagiarizing. That's all lawyers do is they take things from one thing or another thing. I don't want to be a lawyer. Mike Turner's the lawyer. Kirk, I am not going to be a lawyer, but I am fighting 2 lawsuits right now to make sure we have open, honest meetings.
I gotta go, so I'm gonna say one other thing.
Sure.
You know,
But Mike
I'm from
has a
Kentucky.
fit when he has to deal with it.
I came up here, you know, and started getting involved 5 or 6 years ago, so I don't know as many people and learn. But I gotta admit, I read a lot of your stuff because I do learn and I try
Right.
to get the other opinions and stuff like that. I would say the number one complaint about you, though, is that you have really good ideas, just nobody wants to support them because they're afraid you'll know that you have good ideas. In other words, because it is abrasive, because, you know, and a
I'm not
politician
abrasive.
is supposed to be about forming a consensus and getting everybody together. And sometimes I feel like when you're like saying this fat guy over here and this, you know, some of it is just kind of abrasive. And
Dan Garris is fat. That is a fact.
okay, I
And
get that.
and he
That
doesn't
has
do his
nothing to
job.
do-
And he
that has
doesn't do
nothing
his
to
job.
and
And he doesn't get challenged because we have a backroom
criticism of
deal.
his job, and I'm not saying that,
Right.
but I'm just saying, as a general rule, a lot of people find it offensive. Do you think that if there's a delivery way
Sure.
of getting
Randy.
your part,
Rand,
and you might be,
This
no,
is-
I want to be this way.
this is the Esrati butt. This Esrati butt. You know, I couldn't really butt. Okay? They like saying the butt. But what they've been doing for the last 30 years is voting against their own self-interest. And I get frustrated with stupid people. And I tell people, I am a racist. I hate stupid people. I hate them all equally. So I'm not like, you know, picking and choosing. But we have an inordinate amount of uneducated, unthinking. That's why my campaign stuff says, Esrati wants you to think before you vote.
How is
Because,
that racist? But
I've picked a group of people and I've separated them. But you know, I'm sure people didn't like Martin Luther King, and I'm sure they were ticked that she didn't go. Rosa Parks didn't go to the back of the bus like she should have. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to keep waiting for my turn to get and make my statement. And I fought everybody. And I'll tell you how much it's cost me. When I had an office manager right after my father died who embezzled $35,000 from me in 3 months and $3,000 from the veteran I take care of, Matt Heck couldn't find enough evidence to charge her with a crime. He knew that I would go ballistic. And John, the veteran I take care of, couldn't file right away because he was sick at the time. When he finally did file, she got found guilty of 3 M3 felonies and got sentenced, and she made restitution. I haven't gotten a dime. It has costs. It has real costs. And, you know, anything worth fighting for has costs. And I'll go up to Matt Heck and I'll say, there's the prosecutor that doesn't prosecute. And I said that before this. Because Matt Heck is a horrible prosecutor. Phil Plummer was a horrible sheriff who should have been thrown in prison for what happened in his jail. We don't do those things here. We go like sheep. And if you want to be a sheep, you're going to get slaughtered. And that's why I say what's on my mind, and I call it like it is, because I don't have a... Paul Woody, who used to be the city planner for the city of Dayton, said, in Dayton you need a herd to be heard. And you know what? The herd overwhelmingly knows where its bread has been buttered. For so long, they don't do anything. Kirk,
Wait a minute. I'm from Green County.
right.
And the reason I came here is you're supposed to be running for Congress 10, Mike Turner's seat, right?
Right.
I've heard you denigrate all kinds of people, talk about what you've been unsuccessful at. This has belonged to the Democratic Party here in Montgomery County and everything else. I haven't heard you say a positive thing.
I send...
Stop a minute, don't talk over me. I'm talking. That's what Republicans do. They shout people down.
I said, I get Green
Don't
County, I got a
interrupt me,
list of
please.
places to put my
Don't
signs for
interrupt
Doris
me.
Adams.
Stop.
Okay.
So, what is it you think you can do? You're going to be running for all of us. And all I've heard you talk about is Montgomery County, and I don't see that what you're running for can impact that specifically. So tell me one thing that you would like to do, you think is your first thing you want to do when you get to Congress.
I told you the first thing. I've talked about it extensively.
Which
Donor
thing?
registration system for donors. I talked about small businesses not being taxed with having to do their payroll through private corporations to pay income tax and sales tax, and all that stuff should be provided through a portal at no cost. There are really simple things I talked about. Apparently you weren't listening. But listen,
Apparently I
I also
was
told
listening.
you that I can get under Mike Turner's skin the same way I'm getting under your skin. And then nobody has come within 12 points, and they blamed a gerrymandered district. And a majority of the voters that I need to reach to win are not in Greene County. They're in Montgomery County.
Yeah.
And I am well known in Montgomery County, and I have no chance of winning. 12 points is pretty hard to overcome, and $2 million didn't do anything for Desiree. And Teresa Gasper ran, and she only came within 12.
So I think what needs to be done, if you can slow down here, is that people aren't interested because they can't follow the issues. So debates are great, but if they had multiple, and it's not going to happen, but if people who are interested in solving problems would say, this is what I'm going to do, and then the other guy gets to come back and say, how about that? And then it comes back and forth until you kind of
Kurt,
understand
we don't
the
talk
issue.
about ideas and issues in political debate in this country.
That's why you're not going to get anybody
Kurt,
interested.
we don't, and this is coming from another person who's a candidate for Congress, and I urge you to go to Reconstructing Dayton and watch his interview. It's on reconstructingdayton.org. You can see Kirk, you're going to see Baxter, you're going to see me. I believe that voters are purposely treated like mushrooms, kept in the dark and fed shit. And they're fed shit by people in my industry, the advertising industry, which is working on the perfect campaign commercial that they can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, running. And I have to sit there and talk for the common person who realizes that when we had COVID, the American government did all kinds of amazing things to make sure that we didn't fall into anarchy, and make sure that you didn't pay a dime for COVID care anytime that you got sick. At this point, I'm going to tell you, we need to reevaluate that and say, if you didn't get vaccinated and you get COVID, you're paying for it. Because you had the chance. Now, as to you don't like me for my style, that's fine. If you like Mike Turner for his style, you're more than welcome to vote for him. But whoever comes out of this primary is going to be the person that you're going to have to back, who's going to go to battle for you and go to battle Mike Turner. And if you've seen how Mike Turner reacts to me, you'll know that it won't be like any other candidate he's ever had, because Sharon Newhart, bless her heart, your Greene County candidate, her entire campaign speech was, I was born in Dayton, I went to Fairview High School, my father was a policeman, I went to college, I got a law degree, and I bought a farm. That was her campaign speech. That's not a campaign speech, folks. That's not even a very good dating intro on your dating profile, okay? Sharon Newhart spent a lot of money. Sharon Newhart said, oh, but the district is gerrymandered, I can't win. That's not it either. You can't win if you don't know Mike Turner. I ran for mayor the very first time Mike Turner did, and people kept mistaking the two tall white guys with glass and hair. I used to have hair. He kept his, I don't have it.
Get out of politics.
But I was the one that got Clay Dixon so upset that Clay Dixon, the former mayor of Dayton, had to take me outside and teach me a lesson. And that's when the gloves came off from the local media, and Clay Dixon got exposed for basically ripping off Dayton Public Schools, claiming sick days on days he was traveling for city business. That plus the landfill, and Mike Turner won by 400 votes. So it's my fault that Mike Turner rose to prominence as mayor of Dayton, and I'm going to fix it, by God. It's about time Mikey had to fight with somebody who actually knew what he was about. You realize that right now, the city of Riverside is fighting to get federal funds and local funds to tear down Modern Technology Corporation's former headquarters. Do you know what Mike Turner was busy doing while he was in Congress? He was creating the shell company so Raj Soin could sell it a couple times for $2 million, $2.5 million before it was worth nothing all of a sudden, and now it's an eyesore and we have to tear it down. Mike Turner was Raj Soin's boy from day one. Raj Soin is behind, and his son Vishal is behind the fall of Wright State. You have to know these connections. You have to know where the pressure points are. And you have to understand that the Dayton Development Coalition might be the greatest fraud out there, handing out tons of money to their friends and family to get government contracts, defense contracts, etc., and not benefiting us at all in the name of protecting the base and Mike Turner.
Just one thing.
Sure.
The donor thing you're talking about.
Yes.
Now, you are really talking in generic about campaign finance.
I am talking about
And
having...
you're talking about one particular little issue.
No. The one particular issue that controls Congress. If we don't know where the money comes from, always as a journalist, you follow the money. And if we can't follow the money,
I understand, but we also have the Supreme Court decision to really opened up dark money. And what I am concerned with is, I think you were, I forget who it was, I think it's Kemp who's running for governor now, was saying that if he wins, he's going to unregister everybody, and everybody in the state's going to have to re-register. And I know.
Are you kidding?
I don't know what you're talking about
And what
because
this sounds like-
this is donor registration. This is to donate. There is no registration currently. There is no
Right.
verification.
What I'm saying is, I think that would be a very difficult thing to try and do, given the Supreme Court and stuff. So you're talking about a very specific piece of legislation, correct?
I'm talking about introducing legislation that
Right.
requires donors to register and donate through a portal provided by the Federal Elections Commission. So there is no self-reporting, there's no delaying, there's no hiding. You got to do it out in the open. And let me also explain something. You can't run on every issue. You can't talk about every issue. Voters are overwhelmed. So I have to focus down on some very specific things or the message doesn't get through. I'm in advertising. I understand that. So, please, you can say, oh, you're hateful or you're negative or well, I'm hateful and I'm mad and I'm not going to take it anymore. And I don't think the voters are ready to take it anymore. And I don't think the Democrats or the Republicans have done a very good job. And that's easily reflected by the fact that more people don't vote in primaries and have no affiliation with either party. And they have to deal with what the two parties put on the ballot and who they like and choose. And they go in there like this. I don't want that anymore.
You're an independent?
I am a Democrat, but I don't believe in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. I'm a Democrat in theory, but the way the parties run is disgusting. I believe that paying for roads and water systems and schools is something, and fire departments and police departments is something we do collectively to make our country better. I don't believe in privatization, and I don't believe in running government as a business. Government is about enhancing the wealth of all of us, not a few of us. That's why we now have billionaires who are doing NASA's job. That's got to stop. Yes.
You touched on something that drives me crazy too. And
I drive you crazy.
No, you don't. This is what drives me crazy. I hear people talk about the Democrat being what it is, and then I hear some people that I've heard run for office say they don't know what being a Democrat stands for, and it just pisses me off. Because every 4 years, the Democrats do a platform, and it's out there, it's 91 pages, it's the Democratic National Committee, and it's there. So this is what bothers me when people say they haven't, I think people have an understanding, their own particular understanding of what a Democrat is.
They think Democrats want to take your guns, open the borders, and give stuff away, including their college. You know, why I pay for college, why don't they? No, I believe in things like universal service for every kid after they get out of school. They either have to be in the military or they have to go into some sort of civilian plan for at least a year and a half. In exchange for that, they get a pretty damn good education and we get an educated, informed workforce. You know, holy crap, but you know, we want to talk about that? No. Do I believe that we need to teach civics and home ec and financial responsibility in schools? Yes. Do I want it being done by somebody who doesn't believe in books that explain that black people were discriminated against? No. I am a Democrat, and I am sick and tired of saying, well, they want to give everything away. I'm sick and tired of seeing $2 billion of Ohioans' money being given to Intel Corporation to build a plant in a cornfield. I think we should be rewarding people who build plants close to where their workers live. I believe in walk-to-work tax credits given to companies and given to them all equally, because walking to work is one way we solve climate issues. I believe in free public transport. Why free? Because you run one bus and you take 40 cars off the road, you stop the wear and tear on the roads, you stop all the gas. You also build community, and you keep things from just going and going and going. Sprawl is Republican. Democrats think about keeping things so that are affordable and compact and work. There are so many differences between the two, but most people think it's, yeah, they want to take your guns and they want to kill them babies. You know, I mean, those poor little babies. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Oh my God. It's a zygote. No. I mean, those are issues I don't want to talk about. You know, but I will tell you one thing. When the Second Amendment was written, carrying a weapon doesn't mean an AR-15. Trust me. And if we want to go back to carrying flintlocks and black powder rifles, I'm all for it. And you better be part of a well-regulated militia and keep your weapons in an armory. But hey, you know, this is why I take what I say, because I say things like that, and people are going to argue with me.
So why don't you want to talk about abortion?
Why don't I want to talk about abortion? Because that isn't an issue that I am going to solve anymore. It's going to be solved by the courts. And unfortunately, because Democrats didn't stand up and get Merrick Garland installed, we now have a Supreme Court of idiots. Okay? And we got a lot to undo there. The fact that the insurrection happened and they still are in office, the people that didn't accept the results of the election, you don't accept the results of the election for president, the same election that would put you in office, you're out of here. And the penalty, by the way, for treason is death. I have no problem saying that. And anybody who is aiding and abetting the insurrection, you're out. You broke that oath you took of office. Lauren Boebert can go suck it. And Mike Turner's not much better.
Why isn't Garland taking action?
You don't want to know why?
I think I know why, but
Yeah.
I think I know why, but go ahead.
Because he has no support.
No support?
No support.
What are you talking about? We
The Senate-
all want him to take action.
The Senate,
Every
he has,
We don't count.
we don't count.
People that are the rich people around
Yeah.
us don't want the nest stirred up.
Come on.
I'm not
Look,
so-
look.
I don't know.
Donald Trump was a criminal. He was a criminal in office. He's a criminal now.
Nobody's touching.
And Mike Turner went and said, oh, Donald Trump's totally ridiculous and shouldn't be in. I've got it on tape saying, and then he voted along with him 95% of the time. You know more about what goes in your box of cereal than you know about how your candidate voted and what they stand for. I put a proposal up on my site showing how we could do this, and it has the same sort of stats and everything broken down like the nutritional panel on a box of cereal, and somebody coming, yeah, but what are you gonna do? This negative tearing down Mike Turner. I want to know the percentage of people who lived in his precinct, in his district, that gave him money. I want to know who gave him the rest of the money. I want to know who owns him. I want to know how he voted with this party, how he voted against this party. Yes, Kirk. Hey, Kirk, you know, honestly, you're running for office. You go out and you go and hand out things and talk to people, and you build your own website and put information on it because you haven't done it yet. So get your site up. The election is Tuesday. Instead of sitting here jacking on me and asking questions, get your website and get stuff up. But go on.
I think your ideas are good.
Do you hear that? Kirk Benjamin says my ideas are good.
Most of them are very good.
Most of them are very good.
I wouldn't disagree with most of what he said.
Kirk Benjamin wouldn't disagree with most of what I said.
Now it would have to be focused into a means of implementing that. And the first thing that I just wonder, because I'm not a great researcher, what you're saying about giving information on a candidate applies to every state in the country. So I'm sure that there are some people who are doing that either as...
There are several different nonprofits doing it. Nobody's pulled it all together
Right,
into a
so
unified
the
system.
question-
And that's what we're trying to do with the Modern
Okay,
Policy
so
Institute.
What I'm saying is, that requires, it's a great idea. I'll say
Yeah.
that's a great idea.
Kirk says
I'll
that's a
say
great
it's
idea.
Super great idea.
So you're gonna
I
make a
got
donation?
Super great ideas.
Okay, Kirk, get to your point, please.
My point is, in all ideas, there becomes, it's like a relay race. Somebody starts to lead, and then somebody joins in, and then they go, oh, I'll
No,
I'll
relays,
work
you
with
hand it to somebody else, and then they go, and
and
then
they start,
right. But
so the question is, who's going to do this and when? You need about 3 or 4 programmers, and that's all you need. And then it will happen. Now you got to go find those 3 or 4 programmers who are good. And I am not volunteering.
Kirk, we've got all this in the works.
Well,
it requires money to hire programmers. It requires
they're
money to put
very
everything together.
expensive to get good ones.
Well, I know that, Kirk, because I hire them for my business. So I'm working at this, and that's not what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to run for Congress. And I'm going to use this platform to talk about all these issues that I want to see in the nonprofits and the goals we have. And I'm also going to spend time and effort in making Mike Turner be accountable to his constituents so that they know what he's really doing, because it's not much. Okay? And I can get under his skin and I can tick him off. And if I come within 5 points of him, I've done what no one else has done. But I guarantee I'll do it for a quarter of the amount that they've spent on other candidates. And if you give me $2 million, everyone will know what's wrong with Mike Turner. And that will be that.
And how exactly are you going to piss him off? Because I would like to see, I would pay money to go see
Okay.
you do that.
I've already done it. That's the thing. I've
Well-
already got the record. And when Mike Turner Mike Turner and Nan Whaley both treat me the same way. If we ever anywhere near each other, they turn and they go the other way. They get uncomfortable. They can't make eye contact.
That's the way all important people treat less important people. That is the nature.
Oh no, a lot of them talk down to them. But it's okay. Mike Turner will not be happy if I am his opponent. If anybody else is his opponent, it'll be like Joe Roberts.
But he won't debate you. So
I don't care.
How are
I'll
you going to
take-
piss him off? That's
I
all.
can produce more content and get it out there than he ever can. I have the means of production. I know how the internet works. I know how search engine optimization works. And I know how to target voters very well. And so I am going to go and just take it to him one after another after another. And I don't need that much money to do it. I can do it with reasonable amounts of money. If I get the kind of money that your last carpetbagger got, it's all over. And if these people who have been, the unfortunate part is how to keep the PACs out of it, because I don't want PAC money. I don't want super funds. I don't want any of that. I want to do this with real donors backing me. And I've got contacts all across the nation at high levels, and once I make it past the primary, I think the money will come, and I think you will see things you've never seen before in a campaign, because if you saw what Sharon Newhart ran for a commercial against Mike Turner, you'd be embarrassed, okay? Or Teresa Gasper, and Darlene, and Desiree Timms was even worse. I mean, I bank on Xenia Avenue, and I would never put a crack addict on my commercial in slow motion, ever. So, that's what she did. Sorry. I mean,
She put a crack addict.
in one of her introduction videos, her long form videos, she's got a slow motion of this crack addict going like this that she's going up and talking to. I don't know who is doing her media strategy, but she's not very bright. Okay?
Well, I think having a good campaign manager and knowing exactly what to say, like the
I've
little-
run the last election. I worked with 6 different candidates. All of them won. okay? And 2 of them were getting hack mailings against them from the party, okay? So come on, this isn't rocket science. But if you listen to people like Russ Joseph, who thinks he's some sort of genius in the party and how to do things, where he told me that you should be on radio ads, I'm like, radio ads aren't the most efficient ads. I'm like, there are ways to target these things. And he didn't know anything about it. This is what I do for a living, and I'm very good at it. I got a whole stack of awards. I've been doing advertising for over 35 years. I know how to do this. Okay? Mike Turner does not. He used to rely on his wife. He gave his wife some sweet contracts from the Army Corps of Engineers. He gave work. She got work from the Home Depot Political Action Committee. I called that out, and nobody cared. You know, you don't give work to the Army Corps of Engineers doesn't give work to somebody on the Defense Intelligence Committee accidentally. Okay? She's no longer his wife. Maybe she'll talk to me now. Maybe she's pissed at him still. I don't know.
First wife or second?
First wife. Second wife doesn't
Second
count.
wife
She wasn't very long.
2 months, right?
She was a liar for hire anyways.
Oh, the one that she was having an affair with one of the
lobbyist?
Congress. I thought he was another congressman.
I don't know anything, but I don't care about Mike Turner's sex life because it's probably pretty boring. Okay? All right. We don't have much of a crowd. I'm going to call it quits.